There's a lot of excitement within the crypto community, particularly around Bitcoin, that it's to the moon. You've heard that expression many times, and that it won't be long before it's $100,000 a coin. None of that's going to happen unless the institutional market starts to buy this as an asset class. And for all the hype and excitement and all the discussions that have been going on online and on social media, the truth is institutions haven't touched this yet. Not the real institutions, not the sovereign funds, not the pension plans. Very, very few are involved in it. And one of the major reasons, if not the reason, is that they all now have to be compliant to sustainability and ethics committees. And the way you have to look at that is, you've got, let's say you're managing $50 billion. You're a sovereign fund. And you are concerned about the long-term investment. That's the nature of what they do. And so you concern yourselves about the issues that the people that you're serving care about. And one of those that has been moving right up the hit parade is sustainability, ESG. You've seen it happen at the corporate level. There's a very famous letter that came out of Larry Fink at BlackRock just 6 months ago that really defined what it meant to be sustainable and climate change and all of these things that people kind of ignored for a long time. But now at the institutional level, if you're sitting with a sustainability committee on top of the investment committee, you have to go through their filter first. And their filter has been very clouded by this debate around sustainability and coin mining. There's many miners, particularly in Asia and other foreign countries, that actually burn coal to make Bitcoin. Well, that's not okay anymore. And that's why this debate has come to the fore. But I see it's important and it's a good thing, because if we can resolve this, we can open up the floodgate, the log jam, if you would, of institutional money that wants to allocate to Bitcoin. So I, as a Bitcoin owner, want the institutional buyer to be my incremental buyer. That way I can see price appreciation. We're going to be stuck in a rut here till we resolve this issue. And I think it's very important to have an open forum about it and have a dialogue. I took a lot of criticism when I raised this just a couple of months ago. Now it's at the fore of everybody's discussions. You've got the original crypto community that is steadfast holding to decentralization. They don't think they need a voice. They think that the overall aggregate of all the people that are want to be in the crypto business or be owners of crypto coins and tokens and everything else, they don't need to form a lobby group. And at the same time, while they're having that discussion, New York turns around a few weeks ago and puts a moratorium, or at least threatens one, for 3 years on any Bitcoin mining. And they have one of the most interesting possibilities, lots of hydroelectricity that's not being used around Niagara Falls, et cetera. And so because the industry has no voice, it has no lobby, it has no way to fight back when a single regulator, a single state or a municipality basically bans Bitcoin or tries to keep capital away by threatening something like this, there's nowhere to go. All you have is a barragement of social media occurring, but no centralized voice or committee. So I applaud anything that tries to aggregate the thought process. And there's many different forms being proposed. And in fact, there's a really big Bitcoin conference here in Miami on June 4th and 5th. And this will be one of the topics that's discussed, because the world is gathering here in Miami. And we didn't know what the core issue would be, but certainly this is going to be one of the big ones. Sustainability, ESG, institutional buying is all part of it. And I think the pressure that Elon must have felt when he announced that he would take payment in Bitcoin, well, a lot of institutions that are his shareholders in Tesla, that have provided him billions of dollars of market capitalization, immediately jumped on him and said, I'm speculating when I say this, but I'm sure it happened. Wait a second, where did that coin come from? How was it mined? How do you know it wasn't mined in an insustainable manner, or one that wasn't sustainable at all? And I think that's the pressure that he felt to come out and say, wait a second, I have to rethink this, and I want to talk to miners. Remember, there's only 2.5 million coins left to be mined. That's it. And so it depends on what happens to the next 2.5 million versus all the coins that are out there already. And that's the dialogue the industry is having right now. But this issue is not going away. It is not going away. And if we want to see price appreciation, whether it be on a green coin or a sustainable coin or the aggregate of already mined coins, we're going to need to solve for this, because the incremental buyer, the institution, is where the next $1 trillion worth of interest is going to come from. Sure, let's stick with Bitcoin and let's just look at the last 90 days or even 60 days worth of announcements. The Chinese reiterated their concern about the currency, but didn't really change policy. They just rattled their chain again. Norway removed its tax credits to Bitcoin miners, making it unprofitable to mine there. And one of the largest miners basically sold their assets there. That all happened in the last 4 weeks. Then New York, 6 weeks ago, dropped their bomb with their moratorium. So all of a sudden, because the industry has no voice and there's no one to cry out and say, look, there's some facts that are being ignored here. This is the problem. There's a lot of misinformation about the mining of Bitcoin. But because there's no centralized voice, when that regulator in Norway or in New York or in any other jurisdiction comes out and says, we're going to ban this because we think it's bad for the environment, there's no pushback. And that's a huge mistake that Bitcoin miners have done to themselves, and they've got to fix that. So basically, when you think about why Bitcoin mining could be good for the environment, it's basically the profit motive. In order to mine profitably, you want the lowest cost of energy you can get. And in many geographies in the world, that's sustainable solar and wind. Certainly West Texas, that's the case. And you see a lot of interest in going there to tap into that unused resource, because so much of that West Texas wind isn't being used by anybody. It's not even putting back into the grid. So why not monetize it in the form of Bitcoin, which is a good use of that unused power? The same in northern Alberta, where you can get already flared off gas that's being flared off now and turn that into Bitcoin. These are all sustainable in the sense that they're creating value. And that's important. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, of course, there are miners all around the world that are burning coal. Nobody wants that anymore, which is why you have institutions saying you've got to show me the difference between a coin mined that way and one that's done sustainably, and I'll buy the sustainable coin, even if I have to pay a premium. That's the remarkable discussion that's going on, because half the community says, I want fungibility. I don't care where the coin was mined or how it was mined. It has to be the same value as one that was mined sustainably. I think we're going to go through a huge debate on that on the 4th and 5th, but that's all part of the important dialogue. But my point is, Bitcoin mining can be very good for the environment because it forces new innovation in the creation of energy. Government intervention and the regulatory environment is always on the top of mind for me, because I have so many investments in financial services companies that I really care that we never in any situation go afoul of the regulator. That is a very bad waste of energy in terms of doing that to yourself. So compliance is my number one cost in all of my financial services investments. And I've learned to live with that, and I respect it, and I understand how valuable that is to be compliant versus not being compliant. So when we think ahead of where crypto is going to go, let's think of two paths. The concern you have is talking about it, and I agree with you, as a currency, that it would somehow usurp the US dollar, the standard currency, the gold standard for the world, if you would, in terms of fiat currency. I don't think that's the long run for Bitcoin.